On today's episode of Watch JR Go, I don't know what happened, but I destroyed my back. So we're gonna try to do something easier today and continue Project Winter. We gotta fix the only problem, honestly, with my 2004 Corvette Z06. What is going on, guys? I am Watch JR Go, and today, like I said, we are here with my 2004 Corvette Z06 to fix the one issue it has, and that one issue is something in the accessory belt drive is squealing like you wouldn't believe, to the point where it's embarrassing. It started squeaking on the way back from Kentucky. I've driven it maybe twice since then, really just around the block 2 times, and that was enough to push that thing over the edge. It is a horrific squeal. So let's start it up right now and listen to it. Well, I looked through everything in here with the stethoscope, and not one of the bearings sounds bad. There's no squeal out of the Procharger. There's like a kind of a low grind out of the tensioner. The idler over there sounded great. I can't find a single problem with this accessory drive system. So I think next step here is probably, let's see, it does kind of seem like the belt's trying to come off of this tensioner, but it's retained because this can do probably a much bigger belt. Yeah, the belt is totally on. I don't see any problem there. So I think the next step is to pull the belt off and spin everything individually to try to find out where this squeal is coming from. I don't think it's the Procharger, and water pump sounded nice. Power steering pump was like slightly low on fluid, but it didn't sound like power steering pump whine. It doesn't change when you're moving the wheel. Alternator sounds beautiful. So what could it be? What could be just absolutely creating the worst havoc on the Z06? There's not too much tension or anything. I'd say it's about right on the money. Next step is probably to release this tensioner here, which is the one that actually is holding the belt tension there, and pop the belt off. I had to loosen 2 bolts on the tensioner here, this giant 19 at the back and the 14 on the tensioner that's actually been welded up like a million times. And then this brass nut right here is the one that actually tensions the whole system. So I'm just sitting here making turn after turn after turn to try and loosen this up. And I finally got a little bit of the belt loose, but I have a feeling I've got a long way to go. So this has been pretty time consuming so far. There's no way to get a ratchet wrench in there, and there's no way to get a socket in there. So it's just time to be one with the car. This is actually loading up like a spring in that tensioner too. When I push down, it has a whole lot of spring back I can watch. Let's see if we can buy what we need with the lever. Here we go. Oh, farther down. We got it. All right, now everything's free. I don't know. Sounds like a gear drive, but doesn't sound like a squeal. The pulley on this, it's not good, but it's not that bad. All right. Oh, it's the alternator. The alternator sounded great. That thing is ruined. That sounds horrific. And even I mean, there's no play. There's no back and forth, no shaft play, but that's definitely noisy. Power steering pump. No noise. Water pump. No noise. No play. It's gotta be this guy. So let's spin it up and have a listen. I'm gonna wrap this wire around there. It's gonna be our makeshift belt, and we'll just cross over it so we have something to pull on to spin this thing up with some RPM. And hopefully this answers all of our questions about the alternator noise. It sounds bad even just barely sitting at all. So here we go. That is the exact squeak we were hearing. She done. All right, I think you need a 13. Yep, probably a 13 or a 14 right there. Pull off this connector. I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the battery first, and we'll get this guy swapped out and have this thing back on the road. This has been replaced. I am so happy it was just a bearing failure and not an actual alternator failure. One time I was driving home from KC in a C5 or a C6, one of my older cars, and I lost the alternator, and I made it home with, I mean, it was dying as we pulled into the street where the house was. It was the middle of the night. Of course, we're driving home. It was my C6, all the way from Kansas City, 3 hours. The battery kept that car alive. I'm telling you, this drivetrain, this package, the LS with a simple transmission in a GM vehicle is the best car on the road. It will always get you home. And it's the easiest thing to troubleshoot because they're super fun to work on and the computer can tell you everything about it. This thing went back from Kentucky with a bad alternator. And you know, I had already put it started sounding like that just a little bit before I took off, and I stethoscoped the whole thing and I was like, all these bearings are fine. They were not fine. The bearings were not fine at all. So anyway, we're over here with our wrenches. We've got a 14, a 9/16, and an American 13 millimeter. So that should be all we need to get this off of here. Alternator on the Corvette is like the greatest job you'll ever do. Pull off all the alternator control there, field, all that good stuff. And this is typically a 13, and of course it is on this one as well. Give it a yank. Everyone's always hating on my GM cars, but my GM cars get me home every day. And I get to laugh at all the cars that you think are somehow better. This is probably a 15. GM loves to do that, all odd numbers, so 15 makes sense. The 14 was for the Procharger. 2 more bolts pull this thing out. The only thing that's annoying is this is one of those bushings that slides in and traps the alternator. So to get this out, what I'll probably end up doing is taking the pry bar, putting it right there, and using the sledgehammer to give it one little bump, and then the alternator would just fall out instead of fighting it. I know this because I've done it so many times. Not a big deal, but you can get it down to taking about 3 minutes to change this alternator. And that did it. That's my secret for doing that. Everybody probably has their own way, but it's very easy like that. All right, I'll have to get a new one. And we are here at O'Reilly's hoping they have one of these in stock. I don't know, I didn't call ahead, but we will find out. What up? What's going on? Nothing. And we're back with an alternator this time. So we have the one that was in the city, which is awesome. And I'm gonna need 2 hands to put this thing on. So let me throw the camera down, let's get to it. With the bushings popped in, this should just set right in there. Both bolts are the same on this car. The dirty one goes on the bottom. Before we get all the way, I'll go ahead and hook everything up to make sure we're good to go. Everything reaches, which it does. We have the lower terminal. Oh, this is the fuel pump. I see what's on here. I thought this looked weird. Fuel pump right there, battery right here, and that's about how long it really takes to do an alternator on one of these. Before we send this thing home, I need to make sure the belt is on the crank pulley where it belongs, and it is moved off a couple notches, so somehow I gotta reach down in there or reach under the car and slide it until it's good. I threw the pry bar on the tensioner again, and I think we've got the belt on where it belongs, and it looks like it actually is. I would just like it if the engine turned over a couple times so we could actually check before I tighten the belt down. But I'm gonna go ahead and put some tension on the belt, then we'll check it. And I gotta say, I wish this was the GM tensioner because it's spring loaded and it takes like 5 seconds to do this. But that is not what this is. This is a lot of work. And also it needs a lot of tension. I better actually hook the battery up and give it 1 turn before I crank down on it much more. But I think we basically got this swapped out. Did we get the squeal? The $1 million question. Only the good squeal! It's that beautiful supercharger whine. All right, I gotta tighten this thing down. Other than that, we are good to go. All right, the Z06 is all buttoned up. Let's fire it up. And back in its hole it goes. Yeah, the door's open. I've got the GTR here. Otherwise, I'd take it out and drive it. But I think we're problem solved. This thing was literally undrivable because everywhere you stopped, everybody was like, "What is wrong with that?" Not in a good way, you know. Usually people think, "What's wrong with that?" and they think it's the supercharger whining or something. That was terrible. It was the opposite of that. It was nothing but bad. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to head on over to shop.watchjrgo.com for cool shirts just like that. And please like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I will talk to you next time. And if you're wondering if my bag got any better, no, it got way worse. At one point I reached down underneath the supercharger and I went to pull my hand out and I felt something pop in my back, and oh, the pain, it like quadrupled. I don't know what happened, but I think we're gonna have to talk to somebody tomorrow.